2 years ago, I packed my car, old Chevette, 84. Drove it till the engine smoked, hitched a ride through San Antone. Got a job, tending bar, let a senorita break my heart. I wanna sink my feet into some Illinois clay, walk along the cornfield in the cool of the day, get a dog and chase.
Okay. I'm going to really go into why in the world a farm manager wouldn't think this was a good idea to show some transparency. Are they hiding something? Like, I feel like landowners should have the right to know whether who they decide to go with. I think it's a great discussion to have with your farm manager, but
well, I think the big question is, as a landowner, how do you know that the farm manager is getting the most out of your ground?
you don't. Currently, you don't. And, I think it's two-sided. The farm managers have seemed to push back on this somewhat, which is confusing to me. It still is. Like, if you're working for the landowner's paying you, but it's still kind of an underhanded, like nobody really knows for sure. But when we put stuff out through the platform and we see just shy of 40% increase, why would the farm manager not want to at least offer that transparency to the landowner?
Well, it'd be nice. I guess I view it from an outside lens. As a farm manager, if I am managing this piece of property and the landowner is paying me, and I'm the fiduciary, I have a legal responsibility to do what's best for the landowner. Why would I not like the ability to put it on an open, transparent marketplace and tell the story of, hey, we ran it through this software, this platform, CommonGround, and we got 12 bidders, 65 bids. Here's where they all came in at. We know that we're getting you true market value. And that's where I think you and I are both a little bit confused.
I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand. You work for the landowner. Why would you not want to show the landowner what that property could potentially bring in ROI annually? Now, I still believe that the farm managers have a very, very critical, vital role in making sure that the farm is taken care of, that fertility is...
Sustainability.
All of it. That, being good stewards of every piece of ground is very, very critical in this time and any time, honestly, with the values the way they are right now, to make sure that it is sustainable to continue these farming practices the way that they're going. But that's a conversation for the landowner to have with the farm manager, vice versa.
After the results come in and say, hey, what, in your professional opinion, I'm paying you to manage my farm ground. All these bids came in. You know these farmers. You may know some of them. You may not know some of them. But, at least you've got that open transparency of here's what people are willing to pay, and let the landowner and the farm manager work together as a team to make the best decision. But, when it's maybe only getting shopped out to 2 or 3 farmers.
Well, that's what farm managers have told us. They flat told us that they work with a handful of guys in the region, but we've seen guys traveling a long ways, really good farmers traveling a long ways to get on new ground.
Well, and I'm not here to fault or point blame. It's not the farm manager that is necessarily at fault here, but maybe they don't know there's a better system and a better way of, hey, it's always been done this way. It's been done this way for 50, 60 years. We know good farmers. We know what they can pay. But it goes back to being hyper-localized of maybe they're only working in that 15, 20-mile radius, but there might be great growers 30, 40 miles away that farm ground in their area that would love to have a crack at that piece of ground. So I don't know that it's necessarily, finger pointing or...
No, absolutely not.
It's what is the best way, if you have a fiduciary responsibility to your client that's paying you, the landowner, if you've got that responsibility and you're not utilizing every tool available to you that could provide better results and a better return, are you fulfilling your obligation as a farm manager?
And I would love to, at some point, we'll be able to have, we're going to invite some farm managers on, because I want us to be more educated. I want landowners to be more educated, just across the board, and understand, like, what is the drawback outside of, I don't see a drawback here for the landowner who is being represented. Some transparency, showing that you're working for that landowner.
On the flip side, there's two sides to every coin. A lot of landowners that work with farm managers, they might not necessarily want their results, their auction, their lease auction to be public knowledge.
Absolutely.
So that's their discretion, but it's their asset. Leave it up to the landowner. If a farm manager can go to one of their clients and say, hey, we're on the cutting edge. We want to utilize this platform, which is CommonGround, Ground OS. We think it can drive better results, better ROI in an open, transparent marketplace. Is that something you're willing to try? And let the landowner decide. If they're like, hey, no, I don't want this on a public, open, transparent marketplace. Great. Go about your business. Do it how you've always done. But I think you're going to see a handful of landowners, especially progressive, forward-thinking landowners, that are saying, wait a minute, how can we work with the farm manager and utilize the latest, greatest tools that are available? I mean, that's the name of the game these days, is how do you compete in a very competitive marketplace? In farm management, it's a competitive marketplace. It's a business just like anything else. And what is your edge? What tools can you bring to separate you from the competition?
Sure. And I think the farm managers play a very critical role in the whole of the process. I just believe that this could be a really valuable tool for them to be able to have in their toolbox.
Well, and that's I guess what brings us here today. This is podcast number 2, and we talked about kind of the roots, the history, the start, everything that's been going on from the evolution of cashrent.com to CommonGround to Ground OS. And we want to talk today in our episode about Ground OS. It's a suite of tools for land professionals. We've got the CommonGround side, which is business to consumer, where landowners, they can come on, they can put their ground up for hunting lease, tillable lease. Or you've got the Ground OS side of things, which is our tool set, which is on steroids and ramped up for land brokers, land managers, farm managers, to really streamline their business and put them ahead of the competition, give them the latest, greatest tools to say, hey, I can do it better. This is why you want to go with me. So,
yeah, let's dive in. I'm going to do just a quick demo, sort of of what Ground OS is. And let's see here. Cut out. So here's Ground OS. We're utilizing a different environment than the live environment. So I'll be able to walk you through creating a listing, how a listing looks, how it then goes and populates onto CommonGround directly from Ground OS. This is the suite of tools. Farm managers. We actually have a farm manager who is using this now after the previous farm manager. But really, it was very much designed for land brokers, and specifically.
Let's first start off. Ground OS is ground operating system.
Correct.
So it's everything land. We want this to be the hub of where you go to do business and become that next level broker, manager, whatever the case may be. So really anxious to show everybody a test drive, how it can be impactful in the business. And go ahead, take her first path.
So we're going to, here's basically our home page. All of these would be farms that Maybe as a land broker, you are going to sell at some point in time. You've had history with, it's a new listing that you just got. Maybe it's a property that isn't even your listing. It's another brokerage's listing, but you have a client who's interested in it. Throw it in your Ground OS. I'll show you how to do that here.
And yeah, let's maybe start from just like the basic. And
basic.
Like walk them through a step of, you're a land broker. Mm-hmm. I'm not a land broker. Let's say I'm a land buyer. Mm-hmm. Or let's flip it in reverse. I own a piece of ground. I want to sell it. So I call you, Brad, and I say, hey, I'm interested in selling my property. Can we meet and have a listing consultation? Mm-hmm. Your first step is to go into Ground OS and add my farm.
I'm going to create a new farm.
You're going to create a farm. You don't know what you're doing with this yet, but that's the first step.
It's going to give me.
You're getting ready. You're getting prepped to go to a listing appointment.
All right. So we're in the farms tab here. We're going to create a new farm, and we're going to create a really nice farm here in southeastern Iowa. Let's pick a kind of maybe a mixed use tract.
There you go. That's a good looking farm.
Let's try. Okay, so here it's going to be, the parcel is going to consist of this parcel here. It will always ask, is this parcel used for hunting or recreation? And in this case, there is some timber on this tract. Probably there would be opportunity for deer hunting, turkey hunting, all that sort of stuff. But click yes in those instances because it will help you down the road if you wanted to create a hunting lease for that new landowner.
Sure.
So we're going to say yes on that tract. We're going to say the same guy or folks own that piece, this piece.
So you're just selecting pre-populated parcels.
That's exactly right.
So it's zoom and click.
Yep. And in this case, this is actually owned. It looks like 3 of the parcels are owned by the same owner. And then there's a different owner on one of these. It would obviously, in the case of.
So you can just X out of that one. You
get rid of this.
You misclick there, so you got rid of that. Okay. So now you've got the same owner. That's their tract.
Yep.
You're going to this listing appointment. So what this looks a little bit crazy, but what the system automatically does is it automatically takes all the CLUs into account, which are common land units. And basically you can select these and their usage. So you're tillable, non-irrigated.
Yep. This piece up here, we're going to say it's got some timber on it. We're going to say that that's a timber piece. We're going to, it gives us the ability anywhere we would like to draw.
Okay.
We can draw out areas that, hey, we're going to add this.
Because the little context are common land units are basically generated through the USDA office's insurable tillable ground, but over time, CLUs tend to change in size due to, timber or forestry, cleaning back field edges. So maybe you can go in and customize and say, hey, that CLU's off a little bit. I want to create a little bit different size CLU that fits this property.
Yeah, and in a lot of cases, the CLUs are spot on. Like they will pull exactly how the tillable area looks. Like in this case, it didn't. But this is tillable non-irrigated land. And then we've got a little section down here too, that as long as you don't overlap into the existing CLUs, it will allow you to draw it as it should be drawn.
Yep.
And so here, great. Tillable non-irrigated, save. And then I'm going to get out of draw mode. I'm going to select this additional little piece here and this little piece here. Perfect.
Okay. So what you've done is taken Ground OS's pre-populated data and segmented the farm for different uses. Yep. And we'll see how that comes into play here in a little bit.
So we're going to add a landowner. You can add a brand new contact if you would like. Like in this case, we're going to say that it was a client who we've dealt with in the past. They're already in our system. So we're going to say that it is Silas.
Okay.
Bert is the landowner here. Perfect. So here's what we just created. Here's our aerial map of the property. It's got a auto-populated description that will fall in with that property. It automatically populates the cash rent estimate, which...
Well, let's back up, though. The cash rent estimate, that is CommonGround, Ground OS's proprietary algorithm that when you segment and you select tillable, either irrigated or non-irrigated, it pulls all subsets of data available to us as far as weather, soil data, location, crop history, and then we take that and we crunch our own cash rent estimate to say this is what the ground should be rented for.
With a multitude of factors that go into there.
And it's constantly changing.
So this would say that this piece right here, there is 98.1 total tillable acres on 122.2 acre tract.
Okay.
It's in Lee County, Iowa. Here's a soil map. This is exactly like we drew it out. All your soil codes here. Great.
So before Ground OS, you would have to go to different mapping softwares, correct?
Yeah, I would use. There's multiple softwares systems out there that I would use. And I'll name them. Surrey, Agridata. They're an older sort of system, but I've been in it, I guess, maybe long enough. It probably dates me, but I really like some of the functionalities of their stuff. They don't have some of the they don't have the common land units. There's some stuff in there that it works good, but not for everything. MapRight is a spectacular mapping system, so I would use MapRight for some functions that I was interested in.
Sure.
I would then use OnX on my phone or on the desktop for certain uses. I would use a different system to find parcel data related to that at the county level for tax information, ownership history, all of that sort of good stuff. But we're pulling all of that into one spot here.
Sure. So let's take a pause. They can clip this. Okay. I said we could kind of clip that out and they could edit this, but this is real life. And sometimes when the wife calls when kid's got a tick in their hair and then has to go to the doctor, you jump away from the podcast and you take a call.
So back to what we did. So we just here, if we're back at our main screen of Ground OS, it shows here this 122 acres in Lee County, Iowa. We just did. And so at any point in time, we can come back in here. I can search by, if I go to contacts and I want to search, I remember it was Silas, our client, our good client. So here, Silas. He's in here. I'm going to review all of Silas's properties. Silas has a bunch of ground. And so these are all of my client Silas's properties all in one hub.
Even though you might not have done anything with them, half of these you might have listed and sold.
Yeah, or I might have just shown them to him. Like they were somebody else's, another broker's listings, but we went and looked at them.
So you've got a database of every interaction of every farm with every client at the touch of your fingertips.
Yep.
Nice.
Which is pretty neat. And so if we're going to take this 122 acres, the listing appointment went well and got the listing.
And we got sidetracked there a little bit due to family stuff. But when we talk about the cash rent estimate, if you're not utilizing Ground OS and that cash rent estimate, go into that. So when you sit down at that listing appointment with Silas and you say, hey, 284, good estimate, might be 315. We might be able to do a little bit better. And Silas says, oh, I'm only getting 200 right now. Does that give you a leg up against other brokers to have that information?
I would say it for sure does.
Because you can say, hey, we've got third-party proprietary data. You might be getting 200 right now, but when I list your farm, I'm going to share this information with the buyer agent to say, hey, we're getting 200, but your potential buyer could get an uptick all the way up to 315. So that's additional revenue. So take that into consideration.
Well, and depending on the time of the year, I would probably encourage, or at least offer the resource of say, hey, okay, you're at 200 right now. That's great. We're going to go put this tract up. But in the instance that it's an investor buyer, like this piece here, a lot of times it would be an operating tenant probably who would be interested in this piece, but not necessarily. So depending on the time of the year, I would encourage my landowner client to, hey, let's get this ROI up before I put it out for sale. Okay. Because
he wants to sell this in January is what you're saying, or next year or whatever. And you've got ample time to maximize what he's going to get out of his ground, because at the 200, that farm at 122 acres might be worth X. But if you walk him through the process and he gets it up to 315, I mean, let's just say it goes to 300, you're 50% higher. That amount of tillable acreage inherently is worth 50% more.
That is correct. So it will drive a higher sale price. You know, it's the numbers are the numbers, and in that situation, it would drive a substantially higher sale price at 300 an acre compared to the 200. So again, it's just another service that, as a land broker, as a land professional, I believe we need to be professionals in the entire land space, beyond just, hey, that's nice that you're getting 200 right now, and we're going to sell it at 200. I want to offer you a resource.
How many brokers, land brokers out there, do you think are educating their sellers on cash rental rates?
I would say very few. And but it's not only the sellers that you're educating. You want to be encouraging with the buyers as well, educating them in the aspect that, hey, I'm going to really work this hard. What I'm doing as a land broker, and I'm going to go scour. I've got buyers, okay? So I'm going to go scour this website, and I'm going to pick off tracks that, hey, like, you know, in this case, and let's see if we can find it. You know, let's look at another piece.
So what you're saying is you're utilizing this tool on the selling side to up the rental rate, up the ROI, up the sales price. So you're doing the best possible job for the client. But on the buy side, you're finding opportunities for investors, would-be land buyers, to say, whoa. Hey, John, they've got this property listed at $500,000 and it's getting $200 an acre. I just ran a cash rent estimate. I think we can get $350 an acre. I'm pretty confident.
We need to go buy this one.
We need to go buy this one and send the rental rate up 75%. And what you just bought is worth a lot more money, and cash flows a whole lot better. And they're probably doing backflips.
They are, and I've done it.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
it's great. It's I've got guys into farms that are now returning, believe it or not, over 7% ROI.
Spectacular.
It's pretty hard to do, but without the tools, you just wouldn't know it. So, I mean, the way I see it, taxes continue to go up across the board. Just the cost of holding ground.
Interest rates have gone up. If they're taking a note on the ground, it costs more to carry. You brought up taxes. What Iowa just went through like a
flat 30% across the board.
Well,
almost.
Because they reassessed all the farm ground. Because you went from selling here to selling farm ground here. All of a sudden, the tax base gets reassessed and taxes go up 30%. Well, if you're carrying that ground and your taxes went up 30% because the value's gone up, well, why would the rental rate not go up? So there's like a mismatch there.
It has to follow suit.
Yeah.
To some extent, or it doesn't make any sense to own ground.
Correct. It just, if you're paying more in taxes and driving down your ROI when the ground is more valuable, it just, you know, if my rental house goes from $150,000 in value to $200,000, I should be able to get more in rent.
100%.
100%.
Yep.
So,
but like in this case, this is a local farm even. It's a very, very nice piece. But I know for a fact that this piece right now is getting $225 an acre.
Yeah.
And I would very, very comfortably say I would guarantee you $300 an acre on this tract.
So $75 above 225 as a percentage.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal when you're paying your note and you're paying your taxes and you're doing all that stuff.
Absolutely.
So it's just another angle that is not only for the landowners. It's not just for that broker landowner relationship. It's really for buyers, and you're educating everybody
across the board.
All of it. Yeah. So pretty neat. But so through the system, we can run auction leases for hunting ground, for tillable farm ground. We have a very, very nice auction sales platform within Ground OS that every Ground OS user has full access to.
So they don't have, if you're a land professional, you don't have to source with a third party out there. I'm not going to name names, but a lot of these guys go to a landowner and they want to auction their ground. They're using a company that gets listed on an auction software site, and you might have a bulldozer or a Rolex or whatever. This is the first land specific.
And that's all we do. We lease ground, we sell ground.
So once you've created that farm, you've got in your system.
So here, we'll go to listings here,
and you can do anything you want with it.
Yeah,
and you can quickly, easily put up hunting lease, tillable lease, or you can auction the property.
Yep.
And you've got the data with the cash rent estimate to back it up.
That's exactly.
And you did it all in one spot.
Yep.
Right.
And so when we're going to create a listing, we're going to either create a brand new farm,
okay,
or we're going to create an existing farm that's already in our system. And so I already did the legwork with whomever it was when
Silas in this case.
Yeah, Silas in this case. So here, let's do this one. Already had it created as a farm.
Got all your fields, all their uses. You're gonna list all three.
Yep. And there's three. It lists each individual parcel.
Okay.
So in this case, there's 3 separate parcel numbers on this tract. Let's go next. Okay. Primary land use. We're going to say the primary land use is tillable. The secondary land use could be hunting. So we'll add hunting in there. Total acres, total tillable acres.
So this auto-populates everything.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Did all of this on its own. So let's see here. Next, we're going to list this for sale, or we can lease it too. Let's lease it. It's going to be a cash rent auction. The landowner decided, hey, yeah, let's hold off. I want to get down here a while.
I'll take you up on your advice. I'll hold off on selling it. You put it up for cash rent auction, and we'll drive that ROI up before I list it.
Yeah, so the broker will put in a listing description here, directions to the property, legal. Here's your parcel ID numbers tied to that. If you're a land broker who's a member of an MLS, you can put your MLS ID number in there. We're going to price this per acre. Suggested starting price will populate based off of the cash rent estimate that was done. Like in this case, we're going to start the bidding here at $250 an acre. Lease start date, lease end date. We're going to offer this as a 3-year lease. Additional agreement terms, say landowner, and you can probably explain the additional agreement terms, what this does.
So yeah, in when you put something up for lease in an agricultural setting like this, a cash rental lease, we basically have a boilerplate cash rental lease agreement, and it covers all the bases, but additional agreement terms allows the landowner to customize it, and this automatically gets tagged into the lease agreement. So whatever you want, like Brad said, no till farming practices, maybe roads, ditches, waterways need to be maintained and mowed, on what basis. So the additional agreement terms allows you to add anything you want to this lease agreement.
Starting bid date.
So bidding start date and bidding end date, that's the actual auction duration.
That
so
is correct.
The auction starts on this date, then it ends on this date. Where the lease start date and the lease end date, you selected 3 years. So that lease is effective this date for 3 years until this. Okay.
That's exactly right. And so we can decide the bid increment we want. In this case, we're going to do on the tillable stuff. It seemed like a fairly good number that we've been using was $5 per acre. But you can adjust that all the way through. So if you're down to the last 2 hours of this being open for bidding, maybe you drop it down from 10 to 5.
Okay.
Or from
So it's fully customizable.
fully customizable, auto time extension. If a bid comes in within the last 10 minutes, the system will automatically add, in this case, 10 minutes. We could make it add 5 minutes, just like that. And so kind of gets you away from the old school eBay sort of a deal that
Hard stop.
3, 2, 1 bid and it's done.
It's a rolling close.
It keeps, yes, there's no, they call it a soft close. So it, if bids come in toward the end there, it does not close on time. We can add photographs, just like any listing. Videos down here, just take the embed code from either Vimeo or YouTube. And most brokers, this is going to be real, like elementary sort of stuff for them. But
Sure.
PDF documents, Word docs, anything like that. If you've got some yield history off of that track, put it in this section here. It will be tied directly to this lease. So in this case, we're saying that this is an agricultural piece predominantly. Let's see. Oh, it didn't like the, let's see. There will be none of these necessarily are relative.
Sure.
To this specific template. So when the system is auto-populated, here's a tillable cash rent lease template.
The boilerplate that I spoke to.
Yep. Lease start date, August 31st. Lease value, 83.98 tillable.
Starting bid amount's 250. So we're calculating that total pay if the starting bid amount is reached of 250.
Correct. And that will change. That will change all the time.
Yeah.
Now here's the really neat part especially for the land brokers. And I don't think we've probably spoke to this, but the system to run a lease for a landowner is 100% free to the landowner. Never any expense whatsoever there. There is, it could be thought of as a buyer's premium, but the awarded tenant for either a hunting tract or an agricultural tract, they pay a set site fee, which
For use of the software.
But what we do with that, like in this case, if the $250 an acre gets met, there will be a site fee of $2,517 that we split in half with the broker who brings this listing.
So if they're just to be clear for everybody, so you've got CommonGround, you got Ground OS, they charge a site fee for the use of that software. Mm-hmm. But if you as a land broker are utilizing Ground OS and you're bringing that inventory, we're sharing in the economics of what we're doing together.
That is correct.
So as a land broker, you can go from making money on the buy side and the sell side. Now you can start making money and increasing revenue on the lease side. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And we've had a lot of guys do it. You've already got that touch, right? It's your network that you already have right at your fingertips. Why not offer this sort of a additional support system to your existing clients?
Well, and not to go off on a tangent here, but for years, you and I have talked about the pain point of you getting contacted for hunting leases. Mm-hmm. And the common theme is, land brokers, we don't mess with hunting leases. Why? Well, it's messy.
Well, and
how am I going to monetize it? Does the landowner pay me? They're a client of mine. Does the buyer pay? I got to work all this stuff out. So you've got clients that are wanting to find leases. Mm-hmm. Calling you saying, "Hey, Brad, I'm looking for a hunting lease. Do you know anything?" Nah, I don't mess with hunting leases.
Yeah, it's just.
Or you have landowners that say, "Hey, I don't hunt. I live out of state. Could you find somebody that wants to hunt my ground?" And that's where it gets like a little bit difficult, where it's like, well, I got to market it. I got to do this. I got to get maps. I got to get photos. That takes time.
Sure.
I'm in business as a land broker. What is that fair compensation, which really hasn't existed up to this point?
No, it hasn't. And we've got, I'm not going to name specific names, but we've got some brokers in the the platform using Ground OS, how it's supposed to be used. And one of them last year, not even in a full calendar year, was $50,000.
Yeah, close to. Yeah.
Just shy of $50,000, paid directly from us to him. And he picked up multiple listings because of it. His clients are happy,
and
he sets himself apart.
Let's drive that point home, because you're a land broker. You're not only doing a better service for your client, the landowner, but when that listing goes out, whether it's an agricultural lease or a hunting lease, and that broker's attached to it, and CommonGround and Ground OS are helping marketing that, that broker's phone starts blowing up. And he gets a call or she gets a call, and it's, hey, I'm interested in that hunting lease. Okay, have that conversation. Well, are you interested in purchasing property in this area or just leasing only? Well, I'd purchase if I could find anything. Okay, well, is this a similar property you'd be interested in purchasing? Boom, that goes into your buyer database. Now you've got a new contact that you otherwise never would have had. So when you peel back the onion, it really is a lead generation tool as well as an educational tool.
Yeah, and an additional source of income for brokers that with the same exact contacts that they're already dealing with.
I totally get it.
So if we come to CommonGround here, as a user, as a tenant farmer, I'd heard that because I got an email saying that there's a new property available in my area, and here it is.
So when you populate a listing on Ground OS as a broker, it goes to the forward-facing consumer side site of CommonGround. Every user in the database of CommonGround, every farmer within a 60-mile radius in our database gets an email that says, new farm for lease in Lee County, Iowa. Check it out, bid on it.
That is correct.
So CommonGround is marketing that listing for the broker to an existing database at no cost.
Of folks that we already have in the, yes. And it doesn't cost the broker a dime. And so like in this case here, this would be, there'd typically be a photograph. We're in this staging environment. So I'm creating listings that aren't actually going out to the general public. But in this case, it would have the broker's name, who's tied to this, whose listing it is, anything pertinent to the property. And so I can set my bid here if I would like. I'm going to put a max bid in of $300.
So you're the farmer now.
I'm the farmer. I want to lease this farm.
Okay, so you can select your maximum bid. You don't have to just throw in the minimum bid of $250.
No. So I can put $300.
So it's set it and forget it, like the Ron Popeil type stuff.
Correct. Yeah. It's similar to that, but it will constantly via email notify me as bids continue to come in. If my bid has to jump up one, or if I'm completely outbid, then it will, really encourage me go back in, bid again. So I'm going to submit a bid.
Great.
There, now it shows that there's one bidder.
But it shows the 250, not the 300.
Correct, because the bid's at 250.
So you just set the max bid. So if somebody comes in and bids 275,
it's going to go to 280.
Because the bid increments are at $5.
Yep.
Okay.
And so if somebody bids 290, it saves me in there as a 295 bidder. If it goes to 305, my bid is no longer the highest.
And it'll notify you
that I'm outbid.
So you can go in and resubmit your next highest bid.
That's correct. Yep.
So you can be involved as a farmer or a hunter that wants to lease ground. You can find a property. You can either be active in the bidding process, or you can just say $350 an acre is my top buck. That's what I'm willing to pay. If I get it, I get it. I don't, I don't. And you can walk away.
And I think we've talked on it probably before. But high bid doesn't win automatically on a hunting lease or a tillable farm lease. That it's ultimately up to the landowner, or to have discussions with the landowner and their broker, who I would argue in a lot of cases should be the local expert. That, hey, maybe, this farmer, the high bidder, he just doesn't have a great reputation. And so maybe we go to the second or third bidder. And this is the part that we were talking about earlier with the farm managers, that there's no risk there. They still get to call the shots for their client, which is the landowner. I just feel like they could really, really show that they're working for the landowner by capturing the entire market, not just the handful of guys that they've got really
good
with.
network.
I just don't have any patience for it any longer, I guess. So not trying to flip the cart over, but I just believe that landowners deserve better from their farm managers. So I can go to clerking here, and this is me back in my Ground OS. I'm the broker for this. I can tell, hey, here's a bidder. He's got his $250 bid in there. Really don't know what his high bid is.
Yeah.
But it's great because I can give this guy a call and introduce myself. I've got his email. I've got his phone number. And hey, let's, Farmer Brad, want to introduce myself. I'm handling this farm. Is there anything I can, assist you with beyond, was the bidding smooth? Do you have any questions, how the process works? I just want to help you walk through this. Give me a little bit of history on yourself. What are your farming practices? How big of an operation are you? I'm not familiar with you. I'm from the area, but I don't recognize your name. I'm glad we got introduced. But I need some information so I can go back to my landowner client when this is all done and be able to, just.
Well, you're having the conversation with him, and ultimately you've got another contact in your database.
Absolutely.
And it could be, hey, Farmer Brad, or are you just primarily focused on leasing more ground? Are you a net buyer of farmland? Like, hey, heck no, I'm a buyer of farmland. Boom, tag him as a buyer of farm ground in your database. Yep. You list the next piece of farm ground, you call him up, and you got it sold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's just so many tools inside of the system that maybe the system doesn't, is not going to lay that out there for you in that fashion.
Yeah.
But they're in there. If you use the system correctly, your network will grow, you will sell more ground, and you will make more money. No question about it.
Bottom line.
Yep.
But that's what Ground OS was built for. And, if you didn't see the first podcast, Ground OS was built off of the original premise of cashrent.com going to CommonGround and brokers coming to us saying, we love what you're doing. Can you do this? Can you do this? If you can do an ag lease auction, can you do a hunting lease auction? Okay. Can you build a land specific, for sales auction platform? And CommonGround just kind of had an offshoot built based off of broker needs, saying there's no land centric software that exists today. I go here for mapping, I go here for mapping, I go here for mapping, I go here to do a for sales auction. I don't have any way to lease ground. So we just kind of bundled it all up and said, hey, this is Ground OS, use it, better service your clients, and you can make money doing it. And it's a win-win for everybody. And our entire business model has been built on that of win for the landowner, win for the farmer, win for CommonGround, win for Ground OS, win for the land broker. We're just creating efficiencies in a marketplace that has so badly needed it for so many years.
I agree. And one thing I wanted to do here, we're going to do this most every episode, but we're going to showcase specific properties, whether they might be tillable leases, hunting leases, for sale property, upcoming auctions, throughout the entire set of folks involved in OS. And so we're going to have, weekly property profile sort of deals. And so I want to show a specific one here. In Marshall County, Illinois. I'm familiar with this farm. It is a very, very nice piece of ground. The landowner's offering a what do we got here? A 2-year hunting lease for turkeys, whitetail, bow hunting, and gun hunting, full season. definitely worth looking at. If anybody's in the market looking for a really, really nice tract, it's been well managed. It's got food plots on it. Yeah, and Marshall County is known for some really, really big whitetails. So
Very cool.
take a look at this one. We've got.
I didn't really realize this, but this is another free resource of marketing properties for brokers and clients, just showcasing them through the podcast.
To the podcast, and it will be, every week we'll kind of randomly grab, hey, like here's a really cool hunting lease in Iowa. Here's a cool hunting lease in Illinois. Here's, a nice new tillable tract. One of our, broker, network guys, he just put up a freaking awesome 500-acre tract. Maybe it's state to state. We'll refine kind of how we do this, but just showcase at least a handful of properties.
I think what you and I can both agree on, what's been really awesome as far as results go, is, we got into this in the ag leasing space, and the average landowner was seeing 39.5% increase in ROI. Well, then we started doing hunting leases, and everybody always said, the going rate for a good deer or turkey lease is $25. So if it's a real slammer, you're going to get 30, 35.
Yeah.
But that was all they knew.
Dude, check the, you want to show them the one that just went in Fulton County?
Well, now we're seeing $60 an acre, $65. As we market these properties, it's whatever somebody's willing to pay. There isn't, back of the napkin, $25 an acre, that's a good price. Why? Mm-hmm. You haven't even put it out on an open, transparent market.
There's no data out there to show me what my piece of ground should be worth through a hunting lease. So this is a nice piece of ground. Don't get me wrong. It's right here in God's country, Fulton County, Illinois, 193-acre tract. The landowner was previously getting $5,000 a year, which in the hunting.
They were happy with, right?
They were thrilled. Yeah, but Matt Cox, land guy's broker, he took the opportunity, had a discussion with the landowner, and said, "Hey, let's try this. I think we can get more than $5,000 a year for this." So he offered this for a 3-year lease. There were 7 unique bidders, and it brought $11,600 a year.
That's not far from Pear Tree Studios.
No, it's close here.
Maybe I should start putting my ground up for a lease.
You probably should. But so it's very interesting in the aspect that this landowner doubled their ROI.
More than double.
Yeah, from 5 to 11.6, and obviously a very happy landowner who's now thrilled with Matt Cox as their broker.
Absolutely.
When the time comes that ground's going to be sold,
He's our trusted resource.
I would absolutely bet that Matt Cox is getting that listing.
Absolutely.
Let's sell that farm. It's a great farm to sell. And so, but he also gets the benefit of 34. What's the math? We cut him a check for $2,600. He's got a happy landowner.
It sounds too good to be true.
It's great though. And he got a lot of publicity. I talked to him during the process, after the process, and he said that he got introduced to some guys from down south in Georgia that he said are really, really big money guys that he never would have got to meet first. And so
it's all about growing that network, having the best in-class tools for your trade.
That's it.
And being the best at what you do. And Ground OS gives land brokers, land professionals this ability that they otherwise never would have had. And that's what's exciting for us. Mm-hmm. So
I think that's it. That's Ground OS.
I mean, we could do multiple leases. We could do for sales auctions. But I mean, for the second episode to highlight Ground OS, I think it's been enlightening, hopefully for everybody out there listening. And, awesome. Podcast is going great. I'm excited.
And I'm excited I really, really am truly excited to speak with more farm managers. That I'm not trying to be woohoo on the farm manager. I promise you I'm not, because they serve a very, very intricate, beneficial role to the landowner. I just need somebody to explain to me why a little transparency in that place is a bad thing.
I don't think it is. I think it's just we've done business this way for decades. There's no need to change. And I think, as with most new things that come out and technology and software evolve and things become more efficient and, you got the next best thing, I think it's more about educating farm managers on, hey, if you don't start utilizing this, your competition is going to. Might be a slow uptake, but you better get on board because it's only going to benefit you and your client and your results. So, it just comes down to educating them and how it can benefit them and their clients.
Well, ultimately, benefit and help the farm managers out. This system can be very helpful on multi angles for them.
Yeah.
So either way, we'll go back to farm managers. We're gonna have
a full podcast with a farm manager to get more in depth on this subject. But no, great podcast. I want to kick it off or end it, I should say, by thanking all of our sponsors, which we still don't have any, but maybe LG TVs, Hollywood, and Red Solo Cups will jump on board, and maybe Brad's favorite Copenhagen. So appreciate everybody out there listening. We want to invite you to go to Facebook, join the CommonGround community. Going to be tons of more content coming out on a wide variety of topics, just designed to educate, inform, and maybe occasionally entertain. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you all.
Feel